Hey everyone, so in today's video I just want to take you through something I have been working on for the last couple of days, and that is kind of a tax tracker, kind of a template that you can use to track the taxes that you have to pay each year on your investments, specifically in ETFs. So there's plenty of investors who only stick to ETFs, throw a bit of money into some sort of ETF that tracks an index like the S&P 500 every week or every month. But because of all of the kind of peculiar little specific tax rules that we have in Ireland, it's very difficult to actually come up with one single template that will be able to take into account all of those specific rules and tell you exactly how much tax you have to pay in each specific year to include on your, say, Form 11. I've made a bit of a stab at it here, and I think I've almost cracked it, and I'm going to take you through it in this video. And if you are interested in getting your own copy of it, or else you want to, say, improve what I've kind of worked on here, I'll tell you how you can do that later on in the video, which will only be a couple of minutes. So first off, this template just goes over a bit of housekeeping first. You know obviously already that the exit tax rate of 41% applies to ETFs in Ireland, and your losses, if you make a loss on an ETF, you can only offset it against the exact same type of ETF. So say if you're invested in VUSA and you make a loss on VUSA, you can only offset that loss against other, say, holdings of VUSA you have. You cannot, for example, offset the loss on VUSA against the profit that you make on, say, another Vanguard fund like VUAA. And as I'm sure you're aware already, there is no annual exemption like you would get when you're investing in stocks, and that comes under the remit of capital gains tax. So you don't get anything here for exit tax. And all your dividend income is also taxed in the same year that you receive it at 41%. Another rule to be aware of is the deemed disposal rule, which stipulates that if you hold onto your ETF, say, for 8 years without selling it, on the 8th anniversary, it's basically like you have actually sold your ETFs, and you'll have to go and pay 41% tax on any unrealized gains that you have at that point. And lastly, the FIFO rules apply to ETFs the same as they do to stocks. So whenever you sell any of your holdings at all, it's always the oldest shares or units or whatever that you are selling first. So it's first in, first out. So you really need to be paying attention to that rule specifically, so you're actually calculating the correct chargeable gain in any particular year. The template that I've created here is set up to take account of all of these 6 different rules, and it might be useful, say, if you're somebody who is investing over multiple years and you want something that you can just rely on to keep track of and calculate your taxes correctly. So I'm going to go through it a bit more detail now. There's also an instructions tab here that will guide you through some specific scenarios, but don't worry about that right now. I'll kind of explain them as I actually go through the template itself. So the summary tab here, that's where you're actually going to get your kind of your net chargeable gain and the exit tax that you actually have to pay, where that will appear. So this is just a pivot table of another tab that we have here, which is our transaction tab. So this will be the tab that you will be referring to when you're looking to see what tax is going to be due for any particular year. So it's just going to show you each position, whether it's open or closed, and the unrealized gains that you have, any realized gains because of deemed disposal, and any realized gains or losses because of you actually disposed of some of your holdings. And also there is a manual input here also required for any deemed disposal carried forward for any particular year. So this tab here is for 2023. So if you have any, say, deemed disposal that you've already gone through for a position that's still open, say from 2022 or 2021 or backwards, you'd need to enter in the carried forward amount. So anywhere you see this kind of a light yellow color here, you have to add in some sort of manual input. The way this pivot table is set up as well, it ensures that we don't offset losses on one asset versus another, and also it also kind of calculates the taxes only obviously if you are in a profitable position here. That the formula is set up to do that as well. And down in the bottom pivot table here, so there's 2 pivot tables. This last one is going to just sum up all of your dividend income and any exit tax that's due on that as well for the year. So now let's have a look at the transaction details tab. As I said again here, anything in the light shade of yellow here is going to require your manual input, and then anything other than that will calculate automatically. So you need to put in the ticker, and then the name is going to come in here automatically if it's in the Google Finance database. If not, you just have to manually add that in as well. Then you're going to have to add in the date that you first purchased your holding, and then it's going to just automatically calculate whatever today's date that is kind of relevant for calculating the deemed disposal and stuff like that. So that's why that's there. You'll have to manually add in how many shares you purchased in terms of quantity and the price, and that will then automatically calculate the total cost, the current share price. Then that will automatically feed in from the Google Finance formula here. The current value, then, that is just basically the total open market value of your position. As you can see here, it's 0 for these two positions. That's because they have actually been sold, as you'll see in the later columns. So it's only going to calculate an unrealized gain for any position that remains open. So it kind of works out here with this formula if your position is open or closed, and then it will work out the unrealized gain only if the position is still open. You can manually add in here your transaction fees, and then it's going to automatically work out as well if deemed disposal has been triggered. Based on the transaction date that we've added here in column C, it's going to work out whether 8 years has passed since that point, and then return the value yes if deemed disposal has been triggered. It's also going to add in the deemed disposal date, so we can kind of keep track on what's actually coming up to the potential deemed disposal date. In the next column here, you're going to have to add in one of 3 different options. The question here is if it's sold. So the answer is either yes or no, or else it's partially sold. And if it is sold, then you're going to have to add in whatever date you sold your holding, even if it is just partially sold. This deemed disposal price, that's going to automatically calculate based on this formula. It's going to look at whatever the deemed disposal date is here, and it's going to work out whatever the price of that asset was on that particular date in the close of market. Then you're going to have to add in here as well the opening amount of shares that you had at the start of the tax year, the quantity that you sold during the year. So as we can see here, this one was just partially sold, and the last 2 here were fully sold. So that's going to calculate this one. This one actually should be automatic here. You don't have to add any manual input. This will just work out how many shares you have left. Then in column T here, you're going to have to add in your average sales price for any sales that you've made here during the year. So why I'm saying the average is, say for this transaction here of you've sold 100 of these shares during the year. That might have been just one transaction, or else it might have been 2 transactions where you sold 50 in one month and 50 in another. If that is a situation where there's been two different transactions, you need to put in the average sales price to make sure that you're calculating your chargeable gain correctly. So that's just a note on that one to be aware of. Then it's going to work out here automatically as well if there's any realized gains there due to the deemed disposal being triggered. So that's just automatically calculated here. Then it will work out any realized gains or losses because of, say, actually some positions that you've sold. So it'll work out whatever kind of chargeable gains or any losses that you've made on any position. Then the status here, that is automatically flagged here, whether there's any position left open, or else if it's a closed position, then it will just say sold here. And the last column here is just combining 2 bits of information here and just taking the ticker and whether the position is open or closed. And that's just purely for the purposes of the pivot table, which I have here already. So all of the data that we just need for our tax calculation, then that comes from this transaction details tab back into our kind of summary tax calculation here. And then it's just automatically calculated here as well on the side. Just noted, if you're going to add any more columns to your pivot table for any reason, just make sure to move out these columns E to G out further out to the right, or else the pivot table might break. But that's nothing to worry about. I already have a note on that in the instructions tab. The last important bit of information that you're going to need is you're going to have to create a separate tab for each tax year. So as you see already, I have a transactions details tab here for 2023, and I've already created one here for 2024 as well. So when you get to the end of the year, you're going to copy all of your transactions from 2023 into 2024 tab, but then you're going to delete out any position that has, say, the status of sold. So I'm going to delete out those ones and I'll only be left with the open positions. The only other bit of admin work you need to do then as well is create a separate portfolio or summary tax calculation for 2024. The only other very important bit of information to be aware of here as well, as I mentioned earlier, is to do with this deemed disposal carry forward. So in 2023 here, for example, this VUSA position, there was a deemed disposal for some of the units that we hold that resulted in a realized gain of €1,032 because of deemed disposal. So when it comes to 2024, we still have that position open in 2024. Deemed disposal has already happened, and it's going to show up here again in our pivot table. So in the carried forward amount here, I'm just going to add in the negative amount from the previous year, so our actual tax calculation for the next year is correct, because in 2024 we disposed of it, so we've already paid tax on a certain amount of our gains, so we don't need to pay tax on that again. So this makes sure that our actual tax calculation is done correctly. So that is just another one to be aware of that I also have in the instructions tab. So if you are interested in taking a copy of this for yourself and even trying it out and seeing if there's any way you can even improve it more, I would be happy to give you a copy of it. I'll leave a link below where you can leave your email address and I will be able to send you your own copy. It's a difficult one to share on Google Sheets because there's so many different formulas and everything. So the best way you can do it is just leave me your email address below, and I'll be able to create your own version and then share that with you. So I'm going to give it away for free, probably for the first like 20 or 30 people. I doubt there'll be probably any more people interested anyway, but if in the unlikely case that lots and lots and lots of people want a copy of this, I might have to add like a small like admin charge of like a couple of euro, because it's going to take me I don't know, maybe 5-10 minutes every time I want to share this with somebody, just to cover my time on it. But I doubt I'll have to worry about it getting to that stage. I'd be delighted to give it away to 20 or 30 people and to get some feedback on it and maybe ways that we can improve it, because there's nothing really that I could find anyway kind of like this that's set up specifically for Irish investors, and I would love if we had something that like was just like very easy to use. I know there's a lot of probably manual work still left in this that we could improve a lot more, but it would be handy to have something where everybody could easily just calculate their taxes and track their portfolios and not have to be scrambling doing crazy workings at the end of every year just to try and work out your taxes out. So I hope you found this video useful, and if you did, I would really appreciate it if you could just drop a like on the video and also subscribe to the channel.